Hey guys, my name is Josh Nome. I'm really honored to be able to offer a few thoughts on fatherhood for this video series. Just as a short note to start, I never understood why people would record videos inside their car until it was time to for me to record a video. It turns out it's a quiet place. It's one of the few quiet places in my life, and it's also got good light. So like, I guess now I get it. Anyway, I'll kind of start with a short story. We've got my wife Stacy and I. We have three kids. Our oldest Oscar is a junior at Notre Dame right now. So I'll tell a short story to kind of start about letting him go and dropping him off at college. My theory, my approach to him going to college was that summer to kind of take it in stages. I was hoping that I could kind of avoid the heavy grief aspects, and so that whole summer, whenever he would have a free moment, we'd play Mario Kart, or I try to chat him up while he's making a snack. All with this kind of idea that I could kind of like progressively let him go by inches, so that when the moment came to actually leave, that would be an easier thing to do. Um, and so when we're moving him in to his dorm, we get everything moved in. His bed is lofted. He's all set. He's got one more item. We got to go back for like at 10 o'clock that night. So we're at home. We throw it in the car. We go back to his dorm room, kind of drop off this last chair, and he's got a couple roommates in his room. So they're start chatting him up, and there comes a moment after we set the chair down, and it only was about 15 or 20 seconds later when there came a moment where it's like, okay, it's time for me to go. So like we just said goodbye. Like we've got this kind of secret handshake, and like that was it. And then the door was shut, and I was like on my own. Like that was it. Um, and it hit hard, let me tell you. So I went downstairs to the hall chapel and like just kind of ugly cried for a little bit there, and then was able to just kind of pray, put put his experience in Jesus' hands. I remember talking to a friend about it later, and he said, "Yeah, you can't front load that grief. You have to experience it in the moment." But it reminds me of a talk I heard when I was a young parent. Someone was saying that the job of teenagers is to murder their parents, and that always struck me as being really interesting. It's a vivid way to describe the need of teenagers, adolescents as they grow into young adults, to differentiate themselves, to kind of separate themselves, and that separation comes ultimately at that moment when they leave the house. So I was thinking about kind of how that relationship has changed with my kids as they get older. When they're small, when they're really small kids, you're in the driver's seat, um, right here in the driver's seat. You're kind of making the choices about where to go and what to do. And then as they become adolescents, you hop over into the passenger seat, like you're kind of riding with them and trying to guide them. And then there comes that moment when they're young adults where you're kind of like left in the driveway, just waving them as they go off. And it strikes me that there's a different kind of love that's called out of me in all of those stages. Um, and when I'm in the driver's seat and they're real young, the kind of love is looks a lot like patience, developing patience. And when I'm in the passenger seat, as they get older, clarity, love that expresses itself in clarity and clear boundaries. And then this is a good opportunity to think about what is the kind of love that's called out of me when we're standing in the driveway, kind of waving to them as they're making their way through life. And I think it looks a lot like persistence and a kind of faithfulness that reminds them who they are. And I guess that's what I would say. My deepest hope for Oscar as he navigates life, I want him to remember and live out of the conviction that he's deeply loved. Um, as when kids are really young, they run to you with their needs, and as they get older, they progressively stop doing that because their job becomes to murder you. Um, so yeah, like just this idea uh, that as they get older, they need a lighter touch, and those touch points are become more valuable but rare in between. Um, so I really want, I guess my ultimate conviction is I really want him to live out of the conviction that he's loved, and I can't offer that to my kids unless I have that conviction that I'm loved and I'm living out of that myself. So I was thinking about how these kind of different phases of love relate to the liturgy, and how I'm reminded that I'm loved deeply. I can remember when our kids were very little, and the need that I have is to show them patience. The part of the liturgy that spoke to me in that phase of life was the breaking of the bread and the pouring of the wine. I remember being at mass and not being able to listen to the homily because I'm busy with the kids, or someone's poking somebody or screaming or whatever, and like just that action of the wine being poured out, the bread being broken. I'm like, I could see that and pray with it. Like I could identify with that. um, that phase in adolescence when you're sitting in the driver's seat and you need to offer clarity. I think I've found the boundaries and the conviction that I need out of the gospel. And then this last phase where we're kind of standing in the driveway watching them drive off. Um, the part of the liturgy that's been speaking to me has been simply just the gathering. And we've got things to do for mass. We find ourselves there early, maybe 10 minutes early, and just sitting in the pew is one of the few people there that are present that early, and just listening as people arrive. People come in and find their seats, and mass begins. I've got this deep sense that this is where I belong. These are my people. This is kind of a touchstone of my life. This community is a place where I'm loved, where I belong, and I need that. I need that touch point to ground me throughout my week. So those are kind of the three liturgical touch points that I think about as my experience as a father is matured with my kids. So I appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this series, and count on my prayers for all you fathers out there as you watch your kids grow. Thank you.